Guy Fenter, come up and give us a little chat.
I've had my instructions from my spouse. She said, you be short. So I'll work on that. And besides, you know, what the hell am I supposed to do after all y'all have already done? I guess I could tell you that I'm probably the resident expert on class reunions in the world. You know, I've been to class reunions at the D-Light, I've been to Paris, Charleston, UCA, and I will say that y'all have outdone yourselves. I really do think it's outstanding. I'm going to say this, don't have to, but I'm going to, about Junior Henson. Those of you that don't know him, he was not only the best high school athlete I ever saw. That's not the most important part. He's also the most compassionate person to his fellow classmates and coaches and teachers that I ever saw. And I was not the least bit surprised that he had problems doing it. As a matter of fact, I told him a while ago he would only last one sentence. We made it further than I thought, Ariel. Last night I'm sitting around with my legal pad trying to figure out what in the world I'm going to say to this group, and watching the Cardinals blow a 6-run lead, and wasn't too happy about that. But I did cuss some. You need to be congratulated on having a good reunion, and also on living so long. And I know how many times you've heard a speaker get up and say something reminds me of a joke. I can tell you in all honesty, when I got up here and looked at this group, I was reminded of a story about a man and lady in the nursing home, and they were visiting, and she said, I bet I can tell you how old you are. And he said, you can't do that. She said, yes, I can. He said, I'll bet you $1 you can't. She said, okay, stand up. He did. She said, take your clothes off. He did. Turn around. And he did. And she said, you're 82. He said, how in the world did you know that? She said, you told me yesterday. So we can all relate to that, I think, without any problem. In all honesty, my wife will tell you I've about quit doing this. I mean, I very rarely ever accept invitations anymore to speak to much of anybody. I'm trying to get out of a whole lot of that. I did not have any problem accepting the invitation to come to the Class of 59 reunion for 2 or 3 reasons. One, y'all were the last active class that I taught in my life. I left Paris when y'all did. I went to Charleston in 1960. And when I did, of course, I left some very fond memories. I left some awfully good teachers. I was very fortunate during the time I was there to have some friends and helpers like Miss Daniels, Miss Fay Moore, Miss Babe. Miss Babe liked me, but she sure didn't like some of the things I did. When I married one of her students, she really didn't like it. But she was a good teacher. And and Bentley Allen. Bentley's arguably, well, I don't know. We'd get some arguments from those who had Miss Daniels, but a lot of people will tell you that Bentley Allen's the best math teacher that ever taught in the parish schools. I don't doubt that at all. But another reason that I thought that I would go ahead and do this, maybe one last thing, is this class really was a little bit different, I thought, because of the character and determination that I saw not necessarily because of excessive abilities in many areas. And it didn't hurt that y'all dedicated the yearbook to me either. But you know, I had to know, being a kind of a coach, I had to know the athletes better than I knew the other students. Coach Hughes will tell you that. I remember those who participated in athletics. I particularly remember the football team that year. There wasn't a nickel's worth of ability in the whole dang bunch. A classic example of what you can do with character and determination. You know, we had Bucky Johns, for Christ's sake, quarterback. Bucky not only couldn't run, he couldn't throw the damn ball. And if he had, we wouldn't have had anybody that could catch it. Actually, we had a quickie pass to the right end, and Buck would throw it about 4 yards to John Miller. And the only reason that's the way that went is because that's as far as Buck could throw it and as far as John could see it. He didn't have contacts yet at that time. and Jimmy Fox had, Jimmy was little, but he was slow. But, hey, he was an all-district halfback, which meant that he ran as hard as he could, and he hit the holes where he was supposed to, and everybody played hard and played with each other. People told me that Bucky Johns wouldn't be a good quarterback because he is too cocky. What they didn't know was that I like cocky quarterbacks. And he was cocky. Never did get over it. But he was cocky, but he was just cocky enough to make everybody play hard. And if things had gotten real bad, we had our secret weapon. We had Bill Bennett Wiggins. Where is Bill? Pogo. He weighed at that time, I'm sure, maybe 85 pounds. He was our backup quarterback. He remember that every time he got the ball. But I'll never forget, you know, you remember strange things when you're a coach. I'll never forget one time I had the second team, and we were trying to run the next team we were going to play, trying to run some of their offense against the first team, and Pogo was quarterback in the second team, and John Miller and Jimmy Jones were just killing him, and Fred Johnson. They were, you know, every time, you know, just wiping him out. And then the minute he came back, and he looked up at me very sadly, and he said, "Coach, are you giving us some bum plays?" I wasn't giving him any bum plays. We just were outmanned. But we did have some. Glenn Mosley had some athletic ability on that bunch. He also, in my opinion, had a great strength of character. For someone his age, he impressed me so much that I named my son Glenn that very same year. Oh, I'm sorry. My wife has not yet quite forgiven me, John, because on Friday when Glenn was supposed to be born, we were up there in the Smith Hospital, and we were playing Greenwood that night, and I was up there telling them that we had to get that over with because I had to go to Greenwood. And I went. She cooperated, and I went. Probably. Of course, then my ladies, you know, I had the girls, and I liked them, and there was some athletic ability there. If I'd been as good a coach as there was some of the athletes in that bunch, we would have been very tough. Wanda Parsons was arguably the best girl athlete that I ever had the pleasure of coaching. Of course, I had Paula and June and Burkhead and Bonita and Mary Lou. Oh, God. Mary Lou was just as pretty as a bird dog puppy and just as unpredictable. About half the time when the bus was getting ready to leave, she'd be out there in the car kissing her boyfriend, and we'd go off and leave her. But when I could get her there, she was quick as a cat, and she could play the game, and they were much better athletes than I was a coach, I think. But we had a good time, and we had a good season. I feel real fortunate to have had that association with all of y'all. The kids, y'all, you might not have had much athletic ability, but you were pretty good students. And that made me look like a better teacher, and that didn't hurt anything either. I guess what we ought to be thankful for, maybe, is that we grew up and lived in a period that saw more change than any other time in the history of the world or in the future of the world. I remember I was audacious enough to tell my American history classes almost every year, every class, that one day they might live long enough to see automobiles that had a radar. Y'all remember this wild story? Had a radar circle around them that would keep you from having a wreck. Well, we haven't quite seen that yet, but y'all might live long enough to see it. I don't think I'll quite make it, but y'all might. We're pretty close, but we've come a long way. You know, I have come from a time when we went, my parents and I, 21 miles to see my grandparents in a wagon pulled by two mules. And my wife brought me up the mountain today in a wagon pulled by 350 horses. And there were times when I wished there wasn't so many of them in there. But I guess I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to have some impact on the lives of many, 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 not just at Parish, but also at Charleston. The one tenet that I always tried to keep in mind is be fair. You know, and sometimes I know there might have been, I've only had one kid in all those years, only one, who said that I wasn't fair to him. And I might not have been. But that was pretty important to me. We don't need to leave this room tonight being sad. Even though at our age, hell, we may not make it down the mountain. We certainly, many of us won't live for another 50-year reunion. I don't know if I can keep you from leaving sad or not, but I'm going to let you go laughing, because I'm about to tell you the funniest story that I've ever heard in my whole life. And I've been doing this kind of thing for 1,000 or 100 years. This is a real funny story. It almost always, what does it do? It does get me in trouble. Is Joe still here? Joe, you want to leave? Actually, if you get in the right frame of mind, it will not be offensive to you. How many of you have grandsons? Okay, then you think about when he was 4 years old. Think about the honorest grandson you have when he was 4 years old, and if you'll stay right there, you'll like this story. The mother was in the kitchen doing the dishes or whatever mothers do, and the little boy's down in the floor in the den playing with his train set. And he pulled his little train into the little train station, and she heard him say, "Okay, all you bastards that won't off, get off. And all you bastards that won't on, get on." So she came around that bar and grabbed him and shook him till his little old teeth almost rattled. And she said, "You're going to sit in the corner for 2 hours till you learn your lesson." So she put him in the corner. 2 full hours. Every once in a while she'd see his little shoulders shake. And she desperately wanted to go hug him. But she knew if she was going to teach him anything, that she better not do that. So when the 2 hours was up, she went over and she said, "Okay, son, you have no doubt learned your lesson, so you can play with your train set again." So he got down and he pulled his little train into his little station, and he said, "Okay, all you nice little people that won't off, get off. And all you nice little people that won't on, get on. And all you sons of bitches that are pissed off about the 2 hour delay, see the bitch in the kitchen."